Hey, this is Danner again. Last time we talked about the Nuance Management Console, and this time we're going to talk about actually Dragon itself. I'll try not to say as many times in this one because the last time I kind of abused it. Here, we're first going to talk about just basically we'll kind of start from top to bottom here. When you set up the icon, what you're going to want to do is you're going to look, so right click properties, you'll see the target. The way that we talked about in the Nuance Management Console was that it goes off Active Directory. What this is going to do is, this is actually the target to the exe file in the folder, and just putting a /trusted after the actual directory path, whatever, will tell Dragon that it's a trusted user and just use the Windows login that's already been established. So this will actually prevent Dragon from opening up a separate login page for the user, so that they can actually just click the icon and they'll automatically get logged in, which is very convenient for the doctors. They hate logging in on a bunch of applications, especially with the whole Citrix thing and all that kind of stuff going on. As many logins as we can reduce, the better. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this is actually a copied shortcut. If you install Dragon regularly or just normally, you won't actually see a target in here. It'll actually be grayed out, or it just won't be there. I can actually try and show you an example. Okay, so I lied. So a lot of these are shortcuts on my desktop. I don't really have any good examples, but what you're going to want to do is, when you first install Dragon, it's going to install an automatic shortcut on here, and that will not allow you to put the /trusted in. So what you're going to want to do is just navigate to the local installation of Dragon, which is going to be C Program Files 86 if you're on a Windows 7 machine. And then you're going to want to go to Nuance, or Naturally Speaking 10, Program, and then look for the natspeak.exe file. So here's what we're going to do is we're going to right click it, and then you'd want to send the shortcut to the desktop right here. So you'd click that and it would automatically create the icon that's already here, and then you would just go in and type /trusted. And what this is going to do is it will actually link up with the assigned username on the Nuance Management Console and automatically log us in. So assuming that we have my account set up correctly on the Management Console, it will automatically log us in. If we weren't set up correctly, or we didn't have a license, so if we didn't have a license, it would say that it would pop up an error saying we don't have access or something else. So see, Dragon is connecting to Active Directory, which means exactly what it says. No user files loaded. This is common at the very beginning. It just takes a second for the server to kick in normally. I hope I'm not lying to you. So we'll just wait for a second here. Okay, normally we would not get a separate pop-up for a separate profile. The only reason that I have a pop-up here is because I have multiple sources for testing. So the way the profiles work is that they are assigned, so the file structure of the profile is based off of the source, and the source would be considered the microphone, whatever microphone they use, which is, now it's going to be the PowerMic 2s. Previously it was the SpeechMic, which is set up as just a regular microphone USB source. So yeah, so here it's going to prompt me to select my source. If it's set up correctly, they're only going to have one source. So if you ever have to swap out a source, when you add a new source, make sure you delete the old one. And also, the Philips speech mics come with their own software that's not created by Nuance, so you'll actually have to uninstall the Philips speech mic control panel just through the Windows Add Remove Programs functionality. And so here, what I'm going to want to do is I actually have my Nuance PowerMic 2 plugged in, not my speech mic, so I'm going to hit open here. On a regular user, they would not have to do that, like I said before. So here it's loading my user file off the server. Here it's saying that the dictation box hotkey has been disabled because the same hotkey is used by another application. And the reason that's showing up is because I have Camtasia going. So also, I know this is a couple bad examples in a row here, but a normal user would not get this box because they're not going to be doing Camtasia at the same time as Dragon. So I'm using my Nuance mic for Camtasia as well as Dragon, so I'll try not to dictate in Dragon so I don't hose up anything else. But I just wanted to pretty much go through a quick rundown of just the different options in here. This is going to be a quicker video than the last one, so this is just going to be Dragon 101, nothing too advanced here. So the Dragon menu is basically just like a regular file menu. There's a lot of different things you can do here. You can turn your microphone on or off. Normally you don't have to do that. You can also turn it on and off by clicking the icon here. But normally this is actually programmed into the microphone where they'll actually press the record button on the microphone and that'll toggle it on, or they can press and hold, whichever they prefer. It's about 50-50 on what they prefer as far as if they just want to hit the record button once and it stays on until they hit it again, or if they want to just hold it down and speak that way. More of the doctors that use Dragon more will actually prefer the toggle. People that just use Dragon here and there just for a couple of quick things will actually use the press to talk. So here it's just the basic functionalities: log in, log out. Nobody has more than one profile, so this is pretty irrelevant. When you hit exit here, it automatically logs you out correctly. So it's the same thing as logging out. You can also save your user files. This is actually kind of helpful. I mean, you don't have to do this if you're a regular user. This is just, I mean, if you're an advanced user and you know Dragon very well, which most of the doctors are, moderately skilled, but there are a few experts like Dr. LaSalle. And what you can do is you can save your user profile, and this will actually make sure that your profile gets saved accurately and correctly. And if you're just starting out a fresh profile, you can save more often, and that will actually update your profile in real time. So you can do a lot of stuff here. You can open a profile if you're not logged in yet, but since we have auto logins, you don't really need to open anything. You can manage vocabularies. This is actually set up upon the initial install for the user, so if or upon creation of the profile, and you actually select the vocabulary there. We always want to use orthopedic surgery, which is the category. Even though somebody may not be surgical, this is the only orthopedic category there is, so the surgery word is just irrelevant. It's just the orthopedic practice or the orthopedic realm or scope, whatever word you want to throw in there. So here is just a way to view the vocabulary and manage it. You can import, export. We just like to use the basic one because it works more than well enough for all of our users. So here you can open a recent vocabulary. We only use one, so there's only going to be one on the list. Save user files and exit, and that's going to wrap up that one. Tools. There's a few different tools we can use here. The Accuracy Center is just sort of a way to increase your accuracy. Since we got the power mics, we don't ever really have to do any of these because people aren't just reporting any issues. They're just saying, hey, it works great, Dragon's 99% accurate. If somebody has an accent or anything like that, you can use different tools to try and help use that. I mean, what these do is, these are just general training. You'll read a couple paragraphs in this one. This manages your audio settings, so if your voice is low or it's not detecting, you can detect it that way. But Dragon is actually pretty good at just determining it, from the initial setup, which is it's actually pretty brief. So here you can add single words to your vocabulary. So before we actually knew what the orthopedic surgery category could do for us, we used a general medical dictation. And So he wasn't able to use the word chondroplasties, which is just an example that he would use. So we could have added a singular word, but just changing the entire vocabulary to orthopedic surgery was much more convenient. And then here, increase accuracy from documents, email, a list, which is just a notepad list. Probably never going to use that. And then you can edit your vocabulary and run optimizers, stuff like that. These are just tools to help if you get in a bind. We're pretty much to the point where we never use these. So you'll probably never have to use any of these just because they don't help all that much. So that'll wrap up the Accuracy Center. The command browser, this is where we could use custom commands. And we were doing this about a year and a half ago, but a few of the doctors that spoke for the rest of everybody else said that we wouldn't have to do this, just because that's what our buttons in EMR do. So you can actually do specific commands in EMR based off of these, but a lot of doctors aren't really aware of these. They don't need to be aware of these. They'd rather use the buttons that they came up with, before Dragon even came about. So these are actually just here if we ever want to use them later. And basically for this, we'll just pick this one out. The user would just say reference problems in the microphone, and it would actually do whatever this says it's going to do in EMR. So this will actually close the current form that's open and then put the cursor in the new problems list. So
don't answer the phone.
So that was just a quick demonstration on some of the quick commands you can do. They don't just refer to EMR, you can also create custom commands, but for those you would just put those in the My Commands category, and you would just create new, and then you can name your command, a brief description. You can determine whether it's a user or a global thing to where it doesn't matter what application is in, or you can do an application specific command. And here it'll actually show the different commands you can use it for, but these are not being used currently, so we'll save time by just not explaining them. So here's just a quick way to add a new command. The dictation box, this actually brings up a local window, and it says unavailable because you actually have to be in an environment with a box. So what the dictation box does is it brings up a window, and then you'll actually send that to where the cursor is, and since my cursor isn't anywhere, it's not going to do anything. So what we'll do is we'll just open up a quick notepad here. Tools, dictation box, and pretend I'm talking in here, so we'll just do that. You can actually say transfer with your microphone, and it'll just send that in there. They don't really use the dictation box very often. The only time you'd use a dictation box is if it wasn't a Dragon certified window, but most things are. Outlook is, Word is, pretty much any Microsoft product. So there's just a few places. If you had any external places, like I'm not sure, like Camtasia, maybe the PACS, you'd have to use the dictation box, but people just aren't dictating into those, so it's not really relevant here either. But just in case you ever have to come across it, DragonPad is the same thing, except it doesn't transfer. It's just a way to practice. So here you can actually just see what the results would be, and just to actually practice your voice. So let's open up this again. And it's not really bringing anything up, unfortunately. But this usually just brings up a window where you practice Dragon. So it's just sort of like a little notepad that doesn't do anything. The Connection Center just shows some current statuses of what's going on. It shows if you have the vSync enabled, which is just a service that runs on the server. So since Citrix sessions go through like a terminal window or a remote window, it has to go through the vSync to actually connect back and forth between the local voice recordings, and then also through the virtual environment onto the EMR. So if VSync is not enabled, Dragon will not really act 100%. So this is just showing some details about the connections and everything. Formatting, these are just so if you dictate a date or a number, these are just little nuances, no pun intended, that will format the text accordingly. So you can add commas versus word text. If it's a social security number, it'll add the hyphens, just stuff like that, adding commas and periods and all types of stuff in here. We usually leave it as default. Nobody has ever said anything about changing anything, so we don't really worry about that. The only thing I can really see, it would be the format dates, and just because of some dates may have duration calculations in EMR, so if they want to dictate a date, it'll have to be in the right format, but it actually comes over the way that we want it if they do it by the default. So that's that. Here is where a lot of the main options will come through. This is this is the ideal setup. None of these will really make or break Dragon. The only thing that will really break Dragon is if you go to the miscellaneous and disable the VSync. That will just pretty much disable all of your accuracy and your dictation. It won't kill Dragon, but it will kill your accuracy. So make sure this is always enabled. The fastest response versus most accurate, right in the middle is, it's not really gonna make or break Dragon either. It's just if they have a slower system, or they have a great system but their accuracy is kind of bad, this is just a happy medium that I have set up here. So depending on the system or their accuracy, you can adjust it a little bit. Even if you go all the way on one, it's not going to make or break Dragon. So the next one is just the view. Here I have it set to floating, so I can drag and drop it anywhere. You can dock it to the top, which will, in this picture, it'll just sort of make it like a toolbar, like the Windows toolbar. And the bottom does the same thing. Cling will actually cling to the application, so it'll actually stick on any window. And if I drag this window, this will actually float with it, or cling to it. The tray icon only means it won't have any toolbar up here. It'll just be in the tray down here with this. So this is just an auto hide, which is the results box. So when you dictate, it'll actually show you what you're dictating, and this will just determine how long that window lasts. Users like Dr. Hamlet prefer a longer delay so they can read it in real time as they're speaking. He just kind of has a gift where he can read it and dictate at the same time. Other users just prefer a quick hide. So nothing really changes in the dictation box. Nothing really changes in the hotkeys. The correction just needs to be set up like this. Commands, this is all default. This is default. Playback text-to-speech. You can enable HTML support. You can disable it as well. It won't make or break anything, but just leaving it as default is the way to go. The place where you're going to make the most changes is, if I can ever click it here. Okay, so the thing that you're going to use the most is going to be just the power mic preferences. This is the Nuance power mic here on the left, and the transcribe just means the record button. I think, let me actually look at it. Sorry, the transcribe button is actually what's selected up here. So you can actually see when you select on one which button it is. So the tabs, you can just sort of determine what that's going to do when you click it. 9 times out of 10 it just tabs through the windows. A lot of doctors like to use that to just navigate through the form more quickly. And the dictate button, which is the main one, and here you'll just have to go through and really kind of just figure what these do, but they sort of pertain to the button. So the dictate button is actually going to be in the dictate drop down box. You can actually set it to whatever you want, but it makes more sense just to keep it how it is. So basically you're just going to be changing it from microphone on and off, so this is just the toggle, versus press to talk. So 9 times out of 10 it's going to be one of these two. So that's all you really have to know. A lot of these other things just modify the different buttons. So everything is usually just kept to default on that. So that concludes the options. For words, this is if you ever have to train a new word. These modes down here, always keep it in normal mode. You don't ever want to keep it in any other type of mode, just because it's sort of beyond the scope of what we use Dragon for. So just keep it on normal, and importing and exporting words, it's just that same vocabulary list of just like a regular notepad or a text file that's delimited by returns. So that's just basically that. And here is just a way to test it, and you can actually play what you just said, and just a way to troubleshoot anything that didn't come back correctly. Here is just another some help things. We already kind of covered these in the other ones. This is just another access point for those modules and stuff like that. So this is actually convenient when you're just figuring stuff out, is the sample commands. So the basic ones are just like sending emails. So yeah, it'll tell you what you can use in Outlook, how to use the microphone. Everybody knows how to do that without reading this. So the advanced ones are what helps. You can do different commands like go to sleep, which basically puts it on sleep mode, or a mode where it's not going to record anything, but it's not going to be turned off, that type of thing. A lot of things, the most important would probably be selecting and correcting. So you can actually say select and then the word that you want, and it'll actually go through the text and select that word. And then once you select, you can hit correct, and that'll actually, so you'll hit select. So say select apple. It'll find the word apple, and then you'll actually say correct that if it's already selected, or you can actually just do that quicker in one step and just say correct apple, and then you can change apple to whatever you want by the pop-up window. And that actually saves to your profile, so anytime you correct a word, it will incorporate that into the profile, and it will try to remember that the next time you say that pronunciation of the word, and that's very helpful. And it's just one example of how to train your Dragon. So that is pretty much it as far as the basics of the Dragon itself. So hope you enjoyed it, and thank you.